Folks, it's Wednesday. I love Wednesday. You can't say Wednesday without smiling. And you know why? Because our first guest every Wednesday is the author of the smash bestseller, Why Catholics Are Right, with a foreword by Louis Farrakhan. He is the raconteur, Michael Coren. Thanks for being with us, Mike.
I love you so much. In case the credulous out there think you were not joking, you were joking. There's no foreword. I couldn't afford Louis Farrakhan.
I thought it was an astounding get. You got Farrakhan in here. That is great. That is great stuff to finally admit that we all have suspected that the Catholics are right. Smash hit book. Thanks for coming back.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, so you heard the account update talking about this homeschooling incident and this
Grotesque.
judge waiting in.
A moral gargoyle. This little fascist in Quebec. We homeschooled for a year, by the way, and this is a Catholic family, 4 children, as with us. But none of this matters. All that matters is this: parent and children, no abuse. State, get out of it. Get out of it. There are parents who dress their children as little pimps and little hookers. They laugh when their kids swear, abuse authority, have no respect for anyone. That's repugnant. But even then, the state has no right to intervene. In this case, kids are being homeschooled. Homeschooling, socialization. Who do you want to socialize your kids? Intelligent adults or nasty little children who aren't raised by proper parents? But again, not an issue. If the kids aren't abused, leave them alone. But homeschooling is incredibly successful. Look at the spelling bees, those nerdy kids. I mean, a lot of them are homeschooled. Look at those who get into university, the highest grades, homeschooled kids. Socialization, yeah, some of them, frankly, won't be enormously worldly, but they're not strange or perverse either. They're good kids. The idea that even at daycare, I object to socialized daycare. I don't even like daycare, let alone socialized. But that this judge would say, we're taking your children away, we're going to educate them, no, we're going to indoctrinate them, and if you object, we'll use other powers of the state to incarcerate you and break up your family.
It is extraordinary. This judge, Nicole Bernier in Quebec, they are saying, the critics of this ruling are saying that she relied on government testimony from experts and so on, and dismissed the family doctor's testimony, saying that the family doctor would be biased. And again, just based on the idea of a lack of proper socialization, I'll decide from the bench what's right for your family, even though you've broken the law and done nothing wrong.
Well, Theo, I mean, if your kid's in trouble, the person you want to help out is an educational expert, obviously.
Well, of course. I have a red phone in my office for that purpose, called an education expert.
Bias is fascinating because educational experts have a bias. They have a bias towards public education. Their wages are paid by these people. Very few of them come forward and say, well, we've looked at it all, and actually homeschooling is fine. The primary educator is the parent. The guardian, the person who takes responsibility for the child, is the parent, except in this particular case. We were both at a conference, saw a movie about public education in New Jersey, and how the whole thing is really just organized gangsterism, for goodness sake. I'm not criticizing public education here, but parents don't have the right, they have the obligation to raise their kids properly. And unless there's any sign that a child has been abused, the state has to withdraw. I'm not even a particular libertarian. It's just applied common sense. This family is being destroyed because the next step is, well, take the kids away from you. What about if the parents say, go to hell? We're not sending the kids to the daycare. The state then has to say, we will intervene, and then you've got a broken family.
Yeah, and you know something? I didn't know before we had this discussion that you had a homeschool sort of background. You tried it in your family.
One year we tried it. And I've spoken at homeschooling conferences, and it's not for everybody. But if people want to, in liberal BC, for example, in British Columbia, if you want to homeschool, you're helped by the government. In Ontario, generally it's fine. There are a few zealous judges and teachers who will try to interfere, but generally people realize, in Germany though, people should realize this, in Germany it's illegal. Because of the statism of Germany, in reaction to their defense to National Socialism, they wanted a strong liberal state. But if you homeschool in Germany, you can be arrested. People have fled Germany to Switzerland. It's a bit like Sound of Music, sort of, not Austria, but Germany. Sure. They've gone to the US, and some have been granted refugee status because they want to homeschool. And in Germany, they'll be arresting their children. Their children taken up, the police will raid the house and take your kids away because you care too much about them.
Okay, now listen, let me play Bernier's advocate just for a second here, okay?
Yeah, cross-dress for a while, come on.
You heard the crack about Coderre. I didn't even know Denny Coderre, I just thought
that's very good.
I would say to you, look, the idea that kids need socialization makes sense to me.
Sure it does,
okay? And when we interviewed Jeb Bush, former governor of Florida, about education, I guess he thought I came off a bit sideways about homeschooling because I said, I think that kids need to be socialized. Maybe they shouldn't do homeschooling because G.K. Chesterton said, I went to school to study my teachers to learn about how people interact, not just the facts. And he really came down on me, actually. Wasn't happy about that remark. But the point isn't whether socialization is important or not. And the point actually isn't even whether homeschooling works or not. The point is whether or not a judge, with no reason whatsoever, can wade in and tell you what you can and can't do with your family.
The judge should, and this applies to our Supreme Court too, judges should only interfere where the law has been broken.
Yeah.
If they make homeschooling illegal, and I will fight that with the last breath of my body, but if they do, then the judge has a duty to intervene. Look, you mentioned socialization, and you're right, intellectually you're completely right, it's not really even relevant. Socialization does matter, but look at kids today. A lot of them are lovely, but you've never come across kids who are pains in the what's-it, who have no idea of respect or reverence. We have declining literacy. The socialization that these people revere, worship, because they've abandoned their faith, and that's this pagan cult of socialization, amongst other things, it doesn't work. I mean, kids are going wrong out there. I don't meet many homeschooled kids who have a drug problem, who are committing rapes, who are committing acts of terror. The homeschooled kids I meet are really decent, well-modeled citizens, model Canadians in many ways. But they're being told, not just by this judge, but the culture around homeschooling, that they're weird. There's a great scene in Mean Girls where Lindsay Lohan, have you ever seen that?
I don't know, why does every discussion we have come back to Mean Girls? You're obsessed with that movie, Michael.
I think I've mentioned it once before in our relationship, but there's a great line where there's a caricature of homeschooled kids. He's holding a pitchfork and he says, and on the third day, God gave us the Lee Remington rifle so we could fight the dinosaurs and the homosexuals. Well, okay, that is one, but you know what? Believe me, these kids, they're lovely kids.
Yeah.
And can you imagine the pain of this family? Because their children know that mum and dad are no longer the authority in this equation. It's a judge representing the state.